Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Simulacrum, written by Farmwitch4275. I approached the human-controlled colony of Exodus. Exodus was a sort of midpoint in Terran space, within the realm of the Terran domain. It was more a way station used by travelers and cargo carriers the galaxy over. A tinge of fear erupted in my throat as my ship, a diplomatic corvette, quietly flew past one of the Dominion's massive 3-kilometer-long carriers. The same carriers that had become so deeply feared throughout the galaxy. The system bustled with activity. Even a Sarinus hive ship was docking at the human station, undergoing what looked to be a cargo haul. It scared us to no end to understand how humanity managed to actually pacify the Sarinus hive fleets, and more so than that, actively trade biotech with them. Most ships were human, straight edges mixed with curved hulls, cannons the size of smaller ships, and smaller ships with a kind of armament that you'd be crazy to fit on a ship that small. The human ambassador had asked us to come here with a volunteer willing to do something beyond the pale of unorthodox, and demanded that we agree on an explicitly and exclusively volunteer-only basis. I had that volunteer. It was one of us, a Draconus, a young one, barely out of the academy. He sat quietly in his seat, his tail fluttering side to side in excitement. He was genuinely amazed by all the ships on display. Humans had the most, massive and diverse space fleet in any galaxy. Plasma, mass accelerators, energy weapons, spinal energy beams, kinetic bombardment cannons, missiles, torpedoes, anything that you could imagine. Every single Terran ship had at least a combination of half those things, usually as standard too. Terran ships were also the largest. Even if you could get through their shields, their armor plating alone would shrug off most weapons' fire. The Zaxclacani Imperium found that out the hard way. Next to this station, this is the Flying Cactus. VIP on board requesting docking permission, our ship's navigator calmly said, communicating with the station. Copy that. Proceed to Vector 293 658. Traffic left and right. CZ-88 Heavy and Draconus Cruiser at your right. Proceed docking bay 23 Charlie, came the radio response. Confirm traffic dock 23 Charlie at T-minus 2 minutes, the pilot said, the sheer confidence in her voice calming us down. We should be there shortly, sir. It looks like the human ambassador is already there. Then we shall meet him. Cathus, come with me, please, I said and made my way to the docking tubes. Cathus looked at me, the youngling clearly taller than his elder by a clear foot and a half. My lord, what exactly did the humans say they wanted? No idea, Cathus. They said that this is an exclusively volunteer-only basis. So I expect it's important enough and dangerous enough that they expect trouble. I can tell you, youngling, when a human is acting that serious, you know it's important. They don't smile. He looked at me, his jubilance suddenly vanishing. The door opened, and he saw the host of Terrans greet us. 2 of the legionnaires, flanked by a squad of marines on parade, to left and right with weapons at their sides. In between all was the ambassador, a kindly old man with graying hair and a walking cane. Just like me, he was getting on. Gather, old friend. Good to see you again. Indeed, it is good to see you again, Ambassador Reginald, I replied in turn and surprised my escort by giving an old friend a hug. Reginald returned it and dismissed the soldiers at his call. Thank you for coming at such short notice. We have 2 orders of business to discuss. The first is that cargo ship over there. Come, let me show you. Come, Gothus, don't dawdle, I spoke up at Gothus, who was mesmerized by the legionnaire staring at him. We hurried over to the docking area and came upon a viewing deck looking over a Terran cargo ship. A small one. Well, small in terms of Terran ships, anyway. Say hello to the Saucy Sue. Yes, I know, don't worry about the name. Her cargo is yours. Special delivery. Reginald handed me the datapad. It was a ship cargo manifest. 2,000 tons of carbonite, 3,000 kilos of gold, 2 tons of 2 tons of artronite crystal, and 14 tons of copper, tri-steel, and titanium. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Yes, all yours, Reginald smiled at me. Reginald, you are handing over a fortune of Artonite crystal that will serve us for the next 16 generations. Why? How? I asked, flabbergasted in shock. Long story short, you know Abraxas 9, that seemingly worthless star system in your backyard you gave to us. Turns out the asteroid field is saturated in valuable resources. Some of the asteroids in that field contain atronite geodes hidden by nickel, copper, and iron deposits. This right here is an adequate compensation in the form of 60% of our mining yield. The rest is already on the open market at agreed prices. Reginald simply smiled at me. I had to steady myself and cough the scaled form to stop myself from collapsing. We both nearly fell over in response to the news. By all the gods of the void, 60%. It took me some time to calm down and regain my composure. You have no concept of what you've done, Reginald. If there is anything we can do in return, name it. Well, we'll keep that in mind for the future. He smiled warmly and directed us inside the building. As for our second order of business, remember what I told you? Volunteer only, Reginald said as he walked with us through the corridor towards a specific door. Upon reaching it, I noted the name on top of the door. Holodeck VR Suite, I quizzed him, furrowing a brow. Reginald just simply smiled at me. We have discovered something interesting during our test of some experimental equipment, a happy accident, so to speak. Please come in. We entered at his behest and noticed a large domed room with 3 pods in them, one of which had a bald human wearing a white jumpsuit in it. He seemed to be connected to some strange devices, but I didn't ask. Well, this is, peculiar, yes it is. Humanity has many secrets, and I feel it is time to explain one such secret. Virtual reality. Utilizing non-intrusive, non-surgical neural helmets, we can transfer the user's mind waves and brain patterns into a computer system. This user can then experience, anything. They can literally create an entire fantasy universe in their own heads, and we can see what they create. Mostly, we use it as a testbed for our starship designs and as a training tool for pilots and engineers, Reginald explained calmly. Suddenly, it all made sense. So that explains a lot. It explains how you were able to do so much with so little time back in the Elysium War. Suddenly, much of how you work makes sense. I let out a sigh of relief. An age-old question we had since meeting humanity had finally been answered. Recently, however, we discovered by accident another use for it. As sophisticated as the tech is, it recently had a slight incident when, someone's mind got accidentally uploaded into the wrong body, Reginald explained, gesturing to the human in the pod. Wait, what? I looked at him, genuinely confused. The neural helmets have a hidden secondary function, apparently, something we thought that only Starship core pilots could use. But apparently, if you complete a series of events and use a specific form of code, any individual can essentially download their neural patterns into another person's brain. Reginald explained this, and it suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks in a sandstorm. It hit me. How? Was all that I could manage to say. Quite by accident, we had a server malfunction in the system. A few crossed wires during a power surge caused one of our interns to download himself into one of these here blanks, as we call them. Clones that we use to test new cybernetic software. Reggie pointed at the human in the pod. What? I exclaimed. The room echoed with my yell. That's illegal. Cloning is illegal in this galaxy. You are quite correct, but not correct. Cloning of functional creatures of sentience and sapience is illegal, yes. These, however, are not clones of sapient creatures, but more just blank shells of roughly similar genetic material. It is technically legal, Reginald said. Well, that's the best kind of legal. Have you fixed the error? I asked, taking a closer look at the pod. Yes, we use our Star Core pilots to adjust the system to fit specifications and rebuild the neural net and exclude any power surges. Several tests were conducted with blanks. That incident won't happen again, and we are absolutely certain that this will work when we use it, Reginald explained, adjusting some of the blank's clothing. And what exactly are you going to use it for? My tone of voice shifted. I was now actually scared. I shall cut to the chase. I want to put your volunteer Cathus into the spot here and put him in some sort of limbo using a neurohelm, then transfer control of his processes into a blank, and then see what happens. Reginald's response made me collapse to the floor. Absolute madness! I'll do it, Cathus suddenly spoke. He stepped forward and held his tail high. Cathus, say for this! I yelled out, commanding him to stand down. I volunteered for this, so shut up. Cathus stared at me, dead in the eyes. I knew from the frills in his horns that he definitely was dead serious. What exactly will happen here, Ambassador? I clambered to my feet as Reginald began to explain. You are put into this pod. Your neural patterns are repeatedly scanned 15, 30, and 50 times in succession in order to guarantee a perfect synchronization. You are then put in a sort of biostasis where your body processes cease. We are aware of your cultural proclivities, so this won't be a full transfer. It'll sort of be remote control scenario where you'll have control of the blank. Oh, I thought it was much worse than that. I'll definitely do it. Where do I sit? Cathus said, chipper again as he was when we entered. Third pod there. The middle part is kept vacant as a neural blank to store memories, just in case something goes wrong. In case the shit hits the fan, we can copy your entire neural pattern to a databank for storage and guarantee, even if the body is unrecoverable, you'll still be around for us to create a clone of you and get you back up and running, the female operator sitting at the console said. And if we knew there was even the slightest risk of something going wrong, we would not even be attempting this in the first place, Reginald said, pressing a button, opening the pod. This is entirely voluntary. As far as I am concerned, that cargo ship was nothing more than dues that we owed in accordance to our friendship as a species. You have no obligation to do anything beyond here, and I wouldn't hold it against you if you walked away. Think carefully. Do you still want to do this? Reginald asked Cathus, holding him by the shoulders with a serious expression, looking him in the eyes. Cathus thought for a moment and moved over to the pod. It took him a bit to get comfortable in the human-made seat and had to move his wings and tail around a bit before he found a sweet spot. He gave the nod to the operator. Ready to go. I stood near the console by the operators and tried to compose myself. The operator started to do her routine. Tracking neural patterns. Neural patterns set for Valicantus sapiens arinus. Tracing memory found. A monitor popped up showing a video from Cathus' very own eyes of his days in the combat training with the Academy. By the stars! I stood in absolute awe. We were actually watching his memories. Fascinating, isn't it? We use this tech to solve criminal cases. It's amazing just how many murderers and thieves we caught and punished with it. We don't do it without the proper legal course, of course. Innocence until proven guilty. We only use it in the absolute when we already have enough evidence to convict anyway, Reginald explained in the dulcet tone, having now moved to stand next to me. You keep saying something about core ship pilots, but its tech was based on them. What thing you said? I asked. Core pilots, or corers, are humans that have undergone a staggering amount of cybernetic and genetic augmentation to essentially plug themselves into a ship, feeding them ship systems into their bodies and allowing them to, control the ships they pilot as easily as they control their own bodies, Reginald explained, handing me a datapad. Another billion-piece puzzle suddenly fell into beautiful place. Now we understood why the Terran warships performed as they did. Now we know why the ship crews were so damn fast. There weren't any. Terran ships could be controlled perfectly instantly. It responded to any threat and direct its entire firepower into a single target in a matter of milliseconds. the Terrans, suddenly became many times more terrifying than we already knew them to be. Nero registry complete. Running redundancy check. Complete. Rechecking. All systems okay. Checking neural pathways for transfer translation. Stand by, the female said as she worked away. I could no longer see Cathus. His pod had been covered in a black veil. Going well so far. Corers are a crazy breed of ship pilot, but almost every ship in the fleet has at least a basic variant of this tech. Corers usually control larger ships, such as the carrier you pass through. Most of the independent contractors or solo operators who simply just live their lives in the void, but each one is contracted to join us in the event of a conflict. You wouldn't believe what some of these guys find out there. It's beyond amazing. Reginald continued to explain as we watched. Neural pattern mesh stable, redundancy stable, backup copies 1 through 75 stable, patient stable, blank stable, system ready. On command, the operator put her hand on the key, flipped open the protective cover, and inserted a key. She then looked at me. I thought for a moment, then looked at her. Do it! Transfer commencing. T-minus 30 seconds. Time itself seemed to spontaneously stop. Those seconds seemed to be years, decades. I felt older by the time they finished by millennia. Complete. Checking system. Neural net. Okay. Neural mesh. Okay. Patient health. Okay. Neural stability. Okay. Connection established and stable. Check. Okay. All clear. Pod 3 is clear to open. Waiting order, she said. I waved my hand to give the go. A hiss of the machine parts and pneumatics followed as a pod containing the blank opened. Medics on standby. Security team on standby. System stable. I looked into the pod. Its eyes were open, looking at me. It slowly sat up and stumbled with its arms. Cathus, Platoon Corporal Cathus Delirious, is that you? It looked at me, then at Reginald, then at its hands. It raised them and took several deep breaths and clenched its fists. After what seemed like an eternity, he spoke. Whoa! I know Kung Fu. This made Reginald burst into laughter and made the operator slap her forehead with a chuckle. The standing medical team laughed alongside the security officers too. Reginald composed himself and spoke. The procedure was an absolute success. I knew that code phrase would be good. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.